Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze how Koeman's tactics helped Barcelona dominate the first half against Getafe and their 5-2 La Liga win. So when we break down the game and we do look at the board, we have Barcelona in a 3-5-2 as expected, with their only change being Sergio Roberto at right wing back, and you witness Getafe in more of a 4-5-1. So first, we're going to break down how Getafe looked to disrupt Barcelona and where Barca were able to create high quality chances in that opening half to help them claim all 3 points. So when you look at the 4-5-1, what you end up seeing is that the key here is that midfield zone, as they want to disrupt Barcelona by ensuring that it was 4v3. So what you ended up seeing was that Angel would be stepping to Piqué, but he'd often be responsible for dropping off to Busquets rather than having Koeman step forward. They didn't want Koeman to step forward because Griezmann and Messi were dropping off into pockets of spaces. Most likely it was Griezmann who was dropping off into that zone, with Messi shifting into an inside right channel position. And then that meant that Alenya and Maximovic could deal with Pedri and De Jong. Out in the wider areas, Iglesias was tracking the movement of Jordi Alba down the left channel, which freed Suarez of his defensive duties. Whereas out in the right channel, Sergio Roberto was pushing forward, and he was closed down by Cucurella. That ultimately leaves the center backs with Messi and Griezmann, and that means that the only free Barcelona players are Lenglet and Mingueza. That's not necessarily a bad thing for Getafe, but they still wanted to ensure that those players couldn't get time on the ball. So what we ended up seeing was that as those center backs looked to push forward, Kubo would step out to Mingueza, Maximovic would be closing down De Jong, and then Sergio Roberto would be dealing with Cucurella. There was a time where Messi ended up dropping off into that inside right position ahead of Sergio Roberto, and you witnessed Kubo dropping off to help out Cucurella to make it a 1v2 situation. Ultimately, the biggest issue down that right-hand side was that if Messi dropped off deeper and Kubo was higher on Mingueza, it would create a 4v3 overload because you would need Maximovic to shift across. But because they had Angel sitting on Busquets, if Maximovic did shift over, Koeman could simply deal with De Jong. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, you could see that Barcelona was able to find a bit more space, but it was now down to execution. Because with Iglesias tracking the movement of Jordi Alba, we witnessed Alenya stepping towards Lenglet and Suarez stepping tightly to Pedri to ensure that he couldn't receive the ball between the lines. That leaves a huge gap in behind the right back, and that's where you could see Griezmann spinning across the center back, or Jordi Alba looking to break in beyond Iglesias to receive the ball in behind the back line. Meanwhile, if we shift back to the right-hand side, the manner in which Barcelona were able to get themselves into better positions involved De Jong pushing a bit higher beyond Maximovic, and rather than the Getafe midfield shuttler tracking his movement, he passed on De Jong to Cucurella or Chakla. So now what ended up happening was that you had De Jong occupying either the center back or the right back. Messi was able to drop off deeper, and then Sergio Roberto would be pushing forward, and that would leave De Jong space to make runs into that gap. So ultimately, Getafe encountered two issues here. One was similar to the Copa del Rey final. Busquets was able to find time to get on the ball in deeper positions and play balls in behind the defense, or he was breaking lines. When Barcelona was building out of the left-hand side, because Alenya was forced to step out to Lenglet, if he couldn't get there in time, Angel would shift over, and Busquets was able to receive the ball in a pocket of space. And even if Alenya stepped forward, Lenglet still had the option to split those two Getafe players to get Busquets on the ball. Once Busquets is on the ball, now you have to look at the runners. You have Jordi Alba looking to break in behind Iglesias. You have Griezmann looking to run across Jeunet. And then you have De Jong looking to break into that gap between Cucurella and Chakla. And the same applied to Messi. So what you end up seeing from Ronald Koeman was that he was looking to exploit the Getafe fullbacks with having runners break in beyond them. And it allowed Barcelona to get into high quality positions. In the build up to Barcelona's goal, you witness Busquets picking up the ball ahead of Angel, and that's where you see Koeman looking to step forward to close him down desperately. As Busquets pushes forward, Koeman isn't able to make a challenge, and that's where you end up seeing Messi making a run into that gap between Chakla and Cucurella, and now it's down to Busquets to find him. Busquets does well to bypass the midfield, and it places Messi in a position where he's in between both center backs to break free on goal, and he ends up putting Barcelona up 1-0. Shortly after that, you witnessed a huge gap of space in the left channel due to the movement of Pedri and Lenglet pulling out Alenya, and that's where you focus on Alba. As Lenglet looks to play a pass, it's Alba breaking in beyond Iglesias into that pocket of space, and Jeunet can't shift over because he is occupied by Griezmann. Lenglet ends up bypassing all three Getafe right-sided players, and it places Alba in left half space with Griezmann and De Jong making runs in towards the box. But when Alba receives the ball in left half space, Jeunet does well to cut off that angle for the left back to find Griezmann running across Chakla and De Jong making a run goal side of Cucurella, and the center back's able to clear the lines for a corner kick. Here you can see the issue that Getafe encounters if Lenglet isn't stepped to by Alenya, as De Jong looks to make a run in between Chakla and Cucurella. As Lenglet steps forward, you could see Cucurella's out of position as De Jong is goal side, and Chakla doesn't even notice the run. What ends up happening next is that Lenglet clips the ball over the Getafe backline for De Jong, and that's when Griezmann should be making a run across Jeunet, or De Jong has to fire an effort on goal. However, here he ends up fizzing the ball through the 6-yard box and no one attacks it. Lastly, you could see Busquets picking up the ball to the left of Angel from Piqué, which pulls out Koeman, and focus on De Jong just ahead of Cucurella. As Busquets looks to play a ball over the top, Koeman doesn't get tight on him, and you have Messi pulling out Chakla and De Jong running across Cucurella, who is poorly positioned. But what's key here now is De Jong's first touch and the recovery movement from Jeunet. Unfortunately for Barcelona, although the move was good, Jeunet does well to crowd out De Jong. As you can see, it is a 3v1 advantage, and Jeunet is able to nod the ball away to clear the Barcelona danger. Ultimately, here the key tactical theme was witnessed in the opening half hour where Barcelona were dominant. It involved Lenglet and Busquets receiving time and space in that midfield zone, and the movement of Alba, Messi, and De Jong exploited the positioning of the fullbacks and Iglesias to get Barcelona into high-quality positions that gave them a healthy advantage to see off the game. Hi everybody, thanks for watching, and subscribe here for your latest tactical analysis and daily commentary on the InnerViews show. And if that wasn't enough, don't forget you could find more organic, unfiltered soccer/football analysis on the InnerViews podcast, the best soccer/football podcast in the world, available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and any Android apps on your Android devices.